Green Cooling scores with the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League show.
Good afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you're listening to this is your weekly dose of Community Rugby League. My name's Dave Parkinson, delighted as ever to be joined by Steve Beech. How are you doing, Steve? You okay, mate?
Not doing so bad, Parky. Just getting over the ends of a cold at the moment, so it may sound a bit nasally. But yeah, it's getting to that time of the season. I was going to say time of the year.
Yeah, it's getting to that time of the season. It's getting to that time of the year.
Yeah.
The nights are drawing in. So just a few short weeks ago, when we'd be recording at this time, we'd have glorious sunshine. We had a day of that, didn't we? Glorious sunshine. We had a day of that where it was really nice. It was really good. But yes, things are really getting towards the business end. There's some things that have been decided.
Yeah.
So we're talking promotions, we're talking relegations, we're talking those clubs in the National Conference League that'll look forward with a bit of trepidation to the AGM at the end of the season to see whether or not
that's right. Yeah.
They get voted back into the National Conference League. I'll explain a little bit more of that just in case there's some people listening in that aren't quite sure. They're not quite sure what's happened.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, Parky. Certainly as a supporter, if you just go down and you're watching games and you're not massively involved with the club, but you support them by obviously going and watching. It's being able to understand how teams, sort of how they manage to stay in. What happens? Did he just stay there? Did he, have to have the sort of acknowledgement of everybody else to say, yeah, you can stay in? Or so that's an interesting thing and a very important thing that I'm sure some of our listeners will be keen to hear about.
We've also got all of our usual features as well. So we're looking up to Cumbria and everything that's happening in the Holborn, Iggs and Cumberland Premier Division and Division 1. And of course, we'll look into what's been going on in the North West Men's League and the Yorkshire Men's League as well. Now, unfortunately, like a lot of people we talked about last week about not being able to get Oasis tickets, even when they're released on the ballot, I've still not been able to get any Oasis tickets for any of those gigs that they're having down in Wembley. But what it does mean is that I can keep my Wembley record intact.
Well, I'm in the ballot, or my good lady's in the ballot for tickets. That came through the other day, and I said, just check, just in case it's spam, and they're after your name and address and all that sort of thing. Because there could be everything.
It was from Oasis.net, was it?
and it was strange. Before the tickets actually went on sale, I dropped a tweet and said, please, Simona, let's not have you whinging about the price of the tickets. And I was hanging on a line for X amount of hours and this, that and the other. Because it happens every single time. And yes, it's happened again. Do you know what extortionate price for tickets? Yeah, it will happen and it'll continue to happen. Nothing will change.
I tell you what, you do get plenty of bang for your buck for though. So okay, you can only if you're lucky enough to get an Oasis ticket, you're paying like 300 quid and through the nose, aren't you? But that'd pay for about 100 Community Rugby League games over the course of a season.
It would, wouldn't it? Yeah.
If I couldn't think of it, that's about my budget. Oh no, I can't believe I spent that much on Rugby League again this season. Anyway, let's crack on, shall we? So, you know what? We're going to start up in Cumbria. We're setting up our usual thing, and that's a look at how it's been reported by our friends from the Cumbria Crack, a first for local breaking news. So it was a tough clash for Wharfbrow and Cockermouth at the weekend. Wharfbrow Hornets A took a major step towards winning the Holborn Iggs and Cumberland League title when they beat Cockermouth in a tough clash at Giel Park. It finished 14-6 to the Hornets, who face another big game this weekend when they travel to Maryport to complete their regular programme. In a very tight first half, Wharfbrow just edged it 8-6 with tries from Luke Spivey and Daly Stables. Lewis Bancroft had scored for the Cockermouth and that was converted by Regan Tinian, and a try from Greg Rooney converted by Peter Caddy were the only points in the second period. Nat Dugan won the Man of the Match award for Wharfbrow, with player coach Liam McAvoy given the award for Cockermouth. Paul Farrell, Wharfbrow coach, said it was frustrating because although we got the win, it didn't reflect the way that we have been playing recently. We created enough chances, but didn't take them for some reason, and it was the old adage of finding a way to win. Against the Cockermouth side, who never gave in, our effort was absolutely outstanding. It's in our hands now to go to Maryport and get the win, which wins the league. Liam McAvoy, he said of his side, "I knew it would be a battle, and it certainly was. They managed the game very well in the second half, and we just couldn't keep the ball enough. It seemed as though we were always coming out of our own half. I was really proud of the lads' effort in defence. They have some very smart players, and we were on our own line for long periods in the second half, but we only conceded one try. Loughborough are the team to aim for, and the performance has given us a bit of confidence going into the playoffs." Maryport, as mentioned, now face that massive game against Loughborough this weekend at the Athletic Ground, where victory will give them the league leader's crown. They beat Loughborough 36-22 last Saturday to set up the showdown with the Hornets, although coach Mark Foster says his team is doing it tough at the moment. It was a good, evenly matched game as expected against Loughborough, and the win gives us a chance of winning the league if we can beat Loughborough. We started well, but let Loughborough back in through lapses of concentration in defence. But all credit to Loughborough, they never gave in, exactly like they knew they would play. That was more credit to our lads as well though. They're playing it tough at the moment. I'm asking them to get up for games both mentally and physically, and at the minute they are. So we need to take that on for the rest of the season. A big challenge is coming up yet again. Maryport, who led 20 points to 10 at half time, scored tries through Chris Ivison, he grabbed 2, at Lee Skillen also grabbed 2, and Carl Steele. Luke Baker and Ashley Smith also got over the try line eventually. Steve Stoddart kicked 4 goals. Scott Atherton was the man of the match. Loughborough themselves, they scored tries through man of the match Emerson Allen, who grabbed a hat-trick in defeat, and Keith Campbell, with the latter kicking 3 goals. Coach Lee Allen said of the game, "It was a yo-yo first half with a few errors from us that gave Maryport a platform to get a foothold in the game, and they were clinical in punishing our errors. When we settled down, we scored some decent tries of our own, but the second half was very tough for both teams, with fatigue taking its toll. Both teams had to tighten up defensively." 2 games in the First Division produced victory for Flimby Vikings and Askham. They're on a bit of a roll at the moment, Flimby, aren't they? That's now 2 wins in 2 games for them. Flimby won 48-20 with tries from Nathan Kirkbride, who landed a hat-trick, Reece Booty, Ben Harrison, Ryan Williams, Grant Underwood and Dan Weir. All 8 of those tries were converted by Weir, by the way. Ryan Williams received their Man of the Match award. And for Aspatria, their tries were scored by Tom Gardner, he grabbed 2, Ben Tootle and Stuart Crichton, with Tootle landing 2 goals also. Ricky Morrison, Flimby coach, said the Aspatria, they came at us very strongly as we expected, and for the first 20 minutes it was a very tough, close, hard game. Reece Booty and Nathan Kirkbride found their form and we managed to get in front, but Aspatria didn't give up. Blake Miller, our latest signing from Maryport, had an outstanding game along with our captain, who kicked all the conversions. A big word as well to the evergreen Neil Byers for the way he carried out his refereeing duties. Mark Ridley, the Aspatria chairman, he said Tom Gardner scored to put us ahead, and then we had Jordan Moore-Simbin, and that proved a turning point as Flimby scored 2 quick-fire tries. It was our first game in 6 weeks, and despite the hot conditions, our lads stuck at it all the way through. Whilst disappointed to lose, I was pleased for Flimby, who have dug in all season, never missing a game, and their young players are showing a lot of promise. In the other game, Askham collected both points from a 34-26 win against Dissington, with tries from Joey Blowers, Luke McIntee, Oliver Guest and Dale Lampton. Dylan Barrow also got over the line, and did man of the match Luke Bolton. Lewis Stables kicked 5 goals. Dissington, they trailed 12-6 at the break and scored tries through man of the match Kelvin Lynch, he grabbed 2, Kelton Lynch, Deaton Askew and Kaya Fraser. Askew also chipped in with 3 goals. Chris Broadley, Askham coach, said, "It was a really good game between 2 evenly matched sides and I was delighted to get the win. We will be putting extra emphasis on defence in training this week." So great win there. And I'll look ahead to the fixtures this coming weekend. As we mentioned, this coming Saturday, it's the biggie, Maryport against Wharfbrow A. The winner wins the league from the look of it, Steve. And maybe you can bring us up to date with exactly where and, if it's point difference or, what would happen.
Well, just to explain what happens with the Carla division, it gets split into two. Or it goes into phase 2 after so many games. And in the Premier Division, you've got Wharfbrow, Maryport, Cockermouth Titans, Lauca, and Kells. They're the 5 who are obviously top of that structure when the league splits into 2. So you got Wharfbrow Hornets who have played 3. They're up there, and obviously the points get carried through as well
from phase 1.
Yeah. So they've got 24 points. Behind them is Maryport, who have got 22 points, but points difference. Maryport have got a 58 points difference, and Wharfbrow have got a 50 points difference.
So basically, a win for Maryport would win that division, wouldn't it? Because they'd win it on point difference then, wouldn't they?
That's right, yeah. So, and then after that, you've got Cockermouth Titans, Lauca, and Kells who are on, because you've got Cockermouth Titans who have now completed their games, and they've finished with 22 points. Lauca and Kells will be up against each other, and they've got 18 and 16 points respectively.
It's been a solid season for Cockermouth, hasn't it?
Yeah. And moving into the Division 1, which obviously has got Allenborough A, Flimby, as you say, Ensingham A, Dissington A, Askham, and Aspatria Hornets.
Yeah.
This is even closer to be honest. It is and it isn't in a way, because you've got Aspatria who are top with 12 points.
Okay.
Yeah? They've got a points difference of 22.
Okay, yeah.
Now this is a strange one, this next one, because you've got Askham, who have also got 12 points.
Okay.
They've got exactly the win-loss draw ratio, but the points difference for Askham is minus 18.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's really close. That's like just a converted try that they've conceded extra, isn't it?
It's so you've got 22 points against minus 18, and then you've got Dissington A who are in third, who are on 11 points, and they've got 52 points difference. Ensingham A, who are in on fourth, they've got 6 points. Flimby, who are fifth, who somebody say, I've done reasonably well in the regular league, but I've got 1-2, lost 2, and they've got 5 points. And Allenborough A, and they've got minus 6 points, unfortunately, because they've had to forfeit quite a few.
Because of the way that
because we know how they're A team and what has happened there. But it's an interesting structure, and it's we talk about how many teams, our teams are few and far between compared, and relatively speaking to Yorkshire and Lancashire in that sort of sense.
I suppose it's one way where if you've
sense.
not got so many teams in a division, you can keep the interest going throughout, can't you, by having, splitting the league in two. So I agree, it's interesting to kind of look at the structure and think, could that be applied to other leagues? Would there be, the will and want to do that?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking as well from from development, because at times we have mentioned, what's been going on in the Southern Conference and what's been going on in the East Division and the West Division and the South West and what's happened in Wales as well, haven't we?
And the thing is, if you can keep competition going, that sort of. Because we look at how many 24-0 games there are in various games, and we can understand at some point, and I know people will say, this never happens, but it is, teams will say, no, we're not playing them because we're going to get hammered. And that's the reality of it. And then, let's be honest, it's a community game. It's a hobby for 99% of people, isn't it? You know what I mean? They're not looking to go much further other than having a good crack with the mates and a game on a Saturday. So you can understand that to a certain degree. So from this point of view, even those who may have sort of been taking a beating, as it were, and have got no chance of success, as it were, at least it splits it up and gives them a bit more competitive edge to the end of the season, doesn't it?
Definitely.
And there's something to to achieve for. It's not totally out of the grasp. And you've got to say, the likes of Flimby, we've kept an eye on them. Some people might look at the results and think, look at they've not done so good.
Look at what they've done in this second phase, though. And that will certainly, I think, buoy them on ahead of next season. Especially when the reports are on about them, bringing players in from elsewhere.
Yeah.
Which is very reasonable, isn't it? To be honest.
And from when we've been reporting, reading the results out from us, it's a learning experience. So when we do it with the Yorkshire Men's League, and we've done it with Cumbria, where we see Flimby come through, where we think, suddenly that sparks our interest because somebody else than the norms that we're not used to. Because when you look at Askham a few seasons ago, from my point of view, I didn't know much about Askham, but suddenly they became a regular, and a known. But now Flimby have come in there, and it's just taking notice as an outsider, as it were, into the competition.
Definitely, and as we mentioned, big game coming up this weekend. Maryport against Westborough Hornets A in the Premier Division, Lauca up against Kells A in the other game for the Premier Division, and then Division 1 you have. Well, I think that Ellenborough A, whether they'll be able to have players to take the field against Flimby, we'll wait and see. Spatria Hornets are up against Dissington A, and Askham A are set to face off against Hensingham A in Division 1. So we'll bring you up to date with all the results next week, and certainly we're going to be keeping our eyes open for what happens in that big game between Maryport and Westborough A, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. And do you know what? It's a concept, or a format that does keep you interested right to the end, at the end of the day. For even for the smaller teams, as I said.
Now, we mentioned the Southern Conference. Did you know it was their grand final last weekend?
I had heard, but I don't know what the results were.
Well, I'll tell you, shall I? So, Hammersmith Hills Hoists 12, West's Warriors 6. So that's a good win for Hammersmith Hills Hoists as they lift the Southern Conference Grand Final title. Meanwhile, in the Plate Final, Eastern Rhinos 26, North Hearts Crusaders 24. Both of these games were played at London Scholars, by the way. And I've got a little note because we were wondering what would happen with London Scholars, where they've been a big story for us. Obviously, they pulled out of the Southern Conference. Yeah. Well, I'm pleased to report they've got a man in place to coach them for next season. So this is a guy called Trevor McLachlan, and he's an Australian that's lived in London for 24 years, and he gravitated through the junior scene in the capital via London Broncos. So he's originally from Wynnum Manley in Brisbane. He played for South Magpies before spending a couple of seasons playing in Sydney, and initially visited London on a 2-month holiday. I love these. He ended up at standoff for the Scholars in the Rugby League Conference in 2001 and 2002, and he scored 9 tries in both of those seasons before deciding to retire from playing and forging a successful career in IT.
There we go.
So he took up coaching in 2021. This is a right rise, this.
Yeah.
So, get this. He led the Bromley Bengals under-14s to a grand final and then guided their under-16s to 2 successive unbeaten seasons. More recently, he's been the coach of the Bengals under-18s team. In 2023, he joined the coaching staff at the London Broncos Scholarship and has now taken on this key role at the Scholars. A club spokesman for London Scholars said, "Moving from League One to the Southern Conference League in 2024 has been a tough journey for the club, but the directors, sponsors and alumni are delighted to put the club back on a level footing. Trevor's appointment will be key to that. The appointment has been made to give ample time to plan for next year's capital challenge in January and for the 2025 season. The club is also looking to add coaching staff to work alongside Trevor, including one of the Scholars' long-standing players from the most recent League One squad. This role will be an act as a link between the recent playing base and the new look team." This statement concluded with any players, coaches or volunteers interested in getting involved in this new exciting chapter of the club's history, please contact info@scholarsrl.com. You know what? I'm buoyed because I know you dropped that bit of news on me that they pulled out of the league because I'd been elsewhere, hadn't I? A few weeks ago, and I was so gutted when you told me that. So I am buoyed by this news that they are going to be returning. They've got plans for next season. I wish them all the success. To be honest, I think that it would be nice to see the Scholars come back fighting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure some people would say, they did run before they could walk with regards to obviously taking that massive step.
You know what? I'd say no, because you look at kind of like how many years they competed in League One, but this could happen to Whitehaven.
Yeah.
This could happen to Halifax.
Yeah, and it's
it's worrying. So when you've got such. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of the lyrics, and here's one of my weird sort of tangents. Okay, I'm thinking of a lyric to a James song. I could live without such, or if I hadn't seen such riches, I could live with being poor.
Oh, so you're going to tell me to sit down?
Well, it was from that song, wasn't it? It was from that song. So, but I think that is, so obviously they've gone from, as we all know, the money and the distribution that comes from the RFL has been reducing year on year for the last few years, hasn't it? And every side has had to cut its cloth accordingly.
Yeah. And do you think that in that sort of... I feel sorry for clubs down south in this respect, because if they don't make it, and we know how difficult it is.
Yeah.
They're so easily to be beaten with a stick.
And it is,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because a lot of people turn around and say, well, what was the point? That's 25 years. But it's 25 years where they have really, really fought against all odds. This was a club that was formed in 1995, so they're coming up to 30 years. Yeah. That's a long, long time to be involved in anything. I don't think Hollyoaks has been going for 30 years, has it? Or has it?
I've not a clue, mate. I've not a clue. But yeah, I've got to say, I agree with it. It's good for seeing them back, and hopefully, obviously we'll keep an eye on how they're doing moving forward.
Right, you know where we're going to go next?
Go on.
We're going to go North West Men's League.
I was just looking at some of the results there.
Oh, these results this week, especially from the Premier Division. There is some classic close games that took part at the weekend. But fair play to Heysham Atoms. So they were the team that was really in the firing line this time last week when we were recording.
Well, it was that's exactly. And we said, and I was saying, sort of hats off to Worthfinch for going there midweek, because that any team to do that midweek, it's not a short drawing.
Oh, definitely not. But Worthfinch 68-0 winners at Heysham. I mean, wow, that is a superb result, isn't it? And just keeps the season so much ticking over, doesn't it? We already know that they can't be caught at the top of the division.
They've won it now. They can't.
They've won it. They've still got the one game remaining, haven't they, up against Latchford Albion. But these other results. There's a lot to like about
there, isn't there? Yeah, I agree.
So I've got to say, when I saw Shevington a couple of weeks ago, they seemed to be really struggling, but they've had a really strong end to the season. So they picked up their second win in quick succession, 16-12 against Blackbrook.
That's a good win.
And having seen Blackbrook the other night when they played against Ashton Burrs, they're no stone jugs.
No,
I mean, Shevington had to have played really well there, and I'm sure that everyone will have been delighted at the fact that they held Blackbrook to just 12 points. So 16-12 the result there. Orrell St James sneaking their way past Halton Farmouth Hornets. It ensures another good season for Orrell St James and the league coming to a close, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
12-10 they won against Halton Farmouth Hornets.
I was having a look at a couple of their team sheets, and I noticed some of the regular names that we usually mention, the one or two had been missing. So whether those injuries of course, to just... Obviously, there was the loss that they had in the final the other week. And I would have thought, don't get me wrong, Alton Farmouth Hornets are no pushovers, but I would have thought that they would have, a Tom especially, would have, sort of... maybe turned them over a bit better than that. But
to be fair to Alton Farmer Hornets, though, their first season back in the Prem has been, really, really good, hasn't it?
Yeah.
They've been a really strong asset to the league for me. And then this one, Ashton Burrs 10, Folly Lane 6. Some real close run things there, isn't there?
Yeah, very much.
So what does that do to the league table? Obviously, we've got the one game outstanding now, haven't we, which is going to be played for double points, if I'm right. So.
Right, obviously you've got. We'll start at the bottom. You've got Latchford, who've just got the 1 point. Who you say are going to be playing Erskfinch. So that would be top versus bottom. Shevington Sharks, 8 points. Forley Lane on 11. Then you've got Isham Atoms at 6th on 12. Alton Farmers Hornets on 5th with 15 points. Also Ashton Burrs who were 4th. On point difference, also on 15 points.
So Ashton Burrs got in there by point difference in the end of the day. We was wondering whether they were going to be able to do that.
Well, you got Ashton Burrs points difference 53, Alton Farmers Hornets difference 34. So it wasn't massive.
Tell you what, that is pretty close, then, isn't it?
Yeah. Then just above them in third place is Blackbrook. This is interesting. Their points 18 points. But they've got a points difference of -9.
So they've conceded more points than they've scored?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
Okay.
Harold St James second on 23 points. They've got a points difference of 211.
Yeah, so, yeah.
On top of the
Pretty
shop.
good.
Erskfinch played 14, won 14.
Yeah.
Points difference.
Go on.
428 and 28 points.
How many have they conceded? Because I know this is something that certainly they were talking about.
They've conceded 116 points and scored 544. So
I mean, that, pretty high scoring, that, isn't it? In the 14 games, that. But what a great season it's been for them so far.
And you could see when we went down early doors there, you could see they'd set the stall out, and they've probably strengthened since then. And I think that loss that they had to Harold St James in the Challenge Cup, wasn't it?
I mean, they pointed at that as being a pivotal moment, really.
It looks as though they've just sort of got their heads together and sort of said, lads, okay, come on, let's see what we can do here. Take your hats off to them. Well done, Sphinx there. Just obviously going into the playoffs now.
Let's dip our toes into Division 1, shall we?
Yeah.
So the results at the weekend. Wigan St Cuthbert 16, Chorley Panthers 16. Talk about a close run thing. You couldn't even get a sig packet between them two, could you? Another close run thing. West Horton Lions 40, Hindley 38. What an outstanding result that is for the Lions. And they're certainly a side that we've been keeping our eye on over the course of the season. I know we spoke about this game and it being an exciting one for West Horton Lions, and the fact that it's such a local derby with the fact, geographically there's not a lot between these sides, is there? And I'm happy to report that we've got a little bit of something that I've received. So Sam Pennington, he's the boss of West Horton Lions. He sent me a little message over the weekend, and he said, it was a huge game for us this weekend against Hindley, and it was played like a true rugby league derby. Plenty of passion and aggression and brilliant rugby on show from both teams. Drama at both ends of the field. He says, fortunately, we scored with the very last play of the game in the corner, which made it 38-38. Up steps Jordan Gibbons to kick the ball from the touchline. A touchline conversion to win the game. It sets up an exciting playoff semi-final between the two sides in 2 weeks' time. Wonderful. So they've got to do it again.
All again, yeah. And give the lad some credit there, Gibbons, because he kicked 6 goals.
Okay.
And you know what I say about having a good goal kicker, how crucial it is, and in that case, excuse me, it certainly has.
I mean, that's outstanding.
Yeah.
Any other scorers mentioned there at all?
Let me just talk amongst yourself.
Sorry, I dropped you in it there, didn't I? You mentioned the added thing about it kicking 6 goals. You brought this on yourself.
It's all my fault, yeah. All right, we got the scores. Unfortunately, we just got the West Horton scorers. But we got Owen, Charlie, 2 for Sampson, Holt, Hall, and Goulburn. And as I said, Gibson there with 6 conversions. So that's 1, 2, 3,
7 tries.
7 tries. So he's only missed the one.
Great result.
Well done there. Very well done.
Good. Next is the game that I went to, actually. So Salford City Roosters up against Thatto Heath Crusaders A. And I was a little bit fearful for Thatto when I turned up at this game because they were somewhat reduced in numbers. I found out when they were warming up that the prop forward who was starting the game could only play 20 minutes, then he had to go to work. So that was reducing their options even worse, or even more. And they had a lad who played who's going to actually be, having an ECG scan when he comes back off his holidays. Okay. So he played the last 10 minutes. I've got to say, he scored a wonderful try.
But is that to do with the rugby, or is it that to do what's going to go on in his holidays?
I don't know. I didn't ask him. But he did score a try, actually. Beautiful try in the corner. It was the last try of the game, in all fairness. And he got put away by his centre from about 25 metres. And you know me and finishes. I'm going to have to show you the picture of it because he does this brilliant diving finish at the corner where he goes sort of head over heels, sort of putting the ball down in the corner. Brilliant. Salford City Roosters have been really good value in the first half. They led 20 points to 0 at half time. They scored 4 tries.
Yeah.
There was a couple of players that we would have recognised. So Priestley, the scrum half, he played in that final a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Daniel Priestley.
Yeah. And they also had Adibola, who I think was playing out in the centres but playing prop. So he took some putting down. Similar to when I was saying a few weeks ago when I was taking pictures of Waterhead. I got about 75 pictures of him running forward, sort of scattering players left, right and centre. He had a massive impact. Then, of course, they had a couple of players that's represented the Lions as well over the course of the summer. So Joe Griffiths played out on the wing, scored 2 tries, one a typical long range effort, and another one where he put the ball inside to talk amongst yourselves.
Inside to centre, winger?
Fullback.
Was it George Jameson?
George Jameson, one of the heroes of the recent Lions victory in Serbia.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting seeing George Jameson and playing a different position because obviously I got used to seeing him sort of operate as a standoff.
Yeah.
And playing out the back, and it gave him that little bit more freedom, to be honest, to sort of pick where he was going to join the line.
Well, that's it, isn't it? With those creative sort of plays like that, they can look to where they can slot themselves in and be most effective.
Yeah. Also, a quick word here because at full time, they actually formed a guard of honour. Did the Salford side for the coach who's stepping away from the club after I think he's been in charge there for about 5 or 6 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
And the centre who's also packing in playing rugby at the end of the year. So that was it was quite a touching moment, that really, and like he sort of like went between everybody as they formed that guard of honour, and they all gave him like the hip hip hooray, type thing. And I know in speaking to the people at the Salford Roosters, they've been quite happy with the standard of the coaches that have put their name forward. They've got 4 names to go through apparently, so they're going to be looking at speaking to each of those people and making a decision a little bit later on. As a result, they haven't quite made the playoffs this time, so I think they finished 5th, haven't they, in the league. But I think with so many young players that are coming through the ranks, because I got to speak to Harry Townend as well, who also went on tour with
the 5th this season, only just out.
Only just out,
yeah.
And he's another one of the very promising young players that is coming through, is Harry. And maybe he'll get the opportunity to play a bit more first team rugby next season. But enjoyed my visit over to Salford Roosters as well. They've got a cracking clubhouse, as you and I both know.
Yeah, really is nice. And it's a nice ground.
They've done a bit of work, so they've got like a couple of like storage units, which they painted up in club colours.
Oh, excellent!
And badged up as well. It looks really, really smart, to be honest.
Well, that's it. I mean, I know there's a couple of clubs that done a similar sort of thing, and that that's the correct way forward, isn't it? If you've got something like that, because, let's be honest, they're not the most beautiful looking things, but for what they are, they're excellent, for the job that they do.
Definitely,
So if you make them look as attractive as possible, yeah, excellent, well done, yeah.
So 38 points to 16 there, and a good game. And then the other fixture that took place, Goulburn Parkside 10, Ulverston 12. Ooh, close run thing there, and a good win that for Ulverston. Dalton 24, Burton Woodbridge 0. So it's probably another one of them, isn't it, really?
I'm smelling a WO? Which, if that's the case, and Burton Woodbridge this season, I'm expecting more of them, I must admit. It's been disappointing with them. Thought Goulburn might struggle, and they have, but Burton would have thought they would have made up a bit more of a show, but unfortunately they haven't.
So who has made the top four then? We know that Salford Roosters have just missed out.
Yeah, just missed out. Well, the top four are in fourth is Wigan St Cuthbert's on 20 points, which means that they just pipped Salford City Roosters by just at 1 point. Then you've got West Orton Lions who have been doing really well. They're on 24 points in third. Then you've got Hindley, who are second, there on 26 points, and top of the tree is Dalton, and with 31 points. But yeah, Dalton have had a really, really good season. They've only had the one loss, drawn 3, and 14 wins.
Really impressive stuff from them, that. Really impressive. Right, Division 3, and your results were Runcorn 24, Higginshaw 0, Wigan St Jude's 12, Garswood Stags 14. So what has that done to the league table? Anything? Any movements as such?
Garswood Stags are top of the tree there on 28 points. Banky Bulls second on 23. Runcorn Highfield on 19 points. So you've got Runcorn and Banky, both who've come up, have done really, really well.
Had really good seasons, haven't they?
And Wigan St Jude's are in fourth place with 16 points.
Oh, so there's some of them sides going to get used to playing each other over the next few weeks, aren't they?
But I'll tell you what we do. Should we go back to Division 2?
For Mr. Mount.
Yeah, Missed Division 2.
Okay. I was that eager because I wanted to bring you what was happening in Division 3 that I've missed Division 2 out. But these are the results. So West Bank Bears 38, Rochdale Mayfield A6. That's an outstanding win for West Bank, that. Newton, this is only why, because you wanted me to mention Newton Storm, isn't it? Newton Storm 32, Roost Pioneers 24. Great win that for Newton.
Well, that puts them up into fourth, and it puts them into the playoffs.
What, after the start they had?
Exactly, yeah.
Wigan Springview 16, Hinepool Tigers 36.
Yeah, that's understandable. That's top versus bottom in that sense.
So what about the rest of the playoff picture?
Yeah, well, you've got Hinepool Tigers, player 14, just lost the one game this season with 26 points. Second, West Bank Bears, again, who've had a good season. They've won 10, lost 3, 21 points. Then you've got Waterhead Warriors A, who have won 5 and lost 6, and they're on 12 points. But they've still got a game to go against Roost Pioneers. And then you've got Newton Storm, who have played 14, won 6, lost 8, and also they're on 12 points. The difference being that Waterhead Warriors at the moment minus 4 points, and Newton Storm minus 24. So technically speaking, if Waterhead Warriors have a bad loss, then by points difference, then
that could wipe them out.
Yeah, well, not wipe them out, because they're not going to go lower, because Lee Miners Rangers A, who are in 5th, also on 12 points, are minus 113 points.
So it would take a big blip, really, wouldn't it? A bit too big a blip, really.
Yeah, that would be the headline on the League Express, I think, this next week. But I've got to get the last sort of part of the season. Newton, I've just I don't know what's happened down there.
They've stormed it.
Yeah, they've certainly got their act together. Don't get me wrong, they haven't been massive wins, but they've been grinding them out, which they weren't even doing that. They weren't even close at the beginning.
But they've been wins, haven't they? And it's the wins that have added up at the end of the year, isn't it?
And I noticed at the weekend in that game, Jacob Turner, who's been on with us in the past on the show, was on the score sheet, both from try scoring and goal kicking. And I know Dan Riley Smiler is still in the thick of things there and dragging the team forward. And I've got to say, it's great to see. And do you know what? Whoever they play in that in the playoffs, they'll fancy themselves now because they've got that little bit of confidence going.
Right, okay. So you're outside bet here.
That wouldn't surprise me, honestly. Wouldn't.
I like it. Confidence there. Confidence there from Mr. Beech. Right, Division 4.
Division 4.
Considering that I've already done Division 3.
Yeah. Speaking of confidence, go on.
Portico Vine 24, Chester Gladiators 0. Culcheth Eagles 12, Liverpool Lizards 10. That's a good win for Culcheth, isn't it? Yeah. And then another close run result. Langworthy Reds 28, West Horton Lions 26.
That is a close result because Langworthy Reds are actually second and West Horton Lions are bottom of the table. So
they've had a couple of losses over recent weeks, haven't they, Langworthy Reds? I know ultimately it's not affected their league position too much, but it's just given a sniff to both Culcheth Eagles, who are third, and Portico Vine, who are fourth.
Yeah.
Just the one game to play there in that division between Orrell St James A and West Horton Lions. Shall I run through the other fixtures that we've got coming up?
Yep.
So let us have a look at these, and we have in the Premier Division Ashton Bears at home to Halton Farnworth Hornets. Biggie.
Yep.
Biggie. I think it is whoever wins that will go on to make the playoffs, won't they?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Then you've got Blackbrook hosting Keynsham Atoms. Hurstfinch against Latchford, that double game. We're going to be playing for 4 points. Orrell St James are up against Folly Lane. And then in Division 1, Thatto Heath Crusaders A up against Ulverston. Goulburn Parkside host Burton Wood Bridge. Wigan St Cuthbert's up against Hindley. Chorley Panthers up against West Horton Lions. And Division 2, Roost Pioneers up against Waterhead Warriors A. And Division 4, as I previously mentioned, West Horton Lions A up against Orrell St James A. Ooh, we are approaching that business end of that lot, aren't we?
Yeah, and as you say, you start getting to just it's like Formula One, isn't it? Getting those grid positions ready for lights out and off they go.
Okay, here are your results from the Premier Division of the Yorkshire Men's League. So, in the playoffs, Doncaster Tolbar were humbled by King Cross Park, 34-16.
Big win, isn't it?
I didn't see that coming.
No.
I'll be honest with you. And Stanley Rangers, we know what a good season they've had. They defeated Fryston Warriors 20 points to 12, but still didn't have everything all their own way there. In Division 1, I clicked on Division 2 again. I'm eager to bring you the results from elsewhere.
In Division 1, Siddle Academy 14, Ossett Trinity Tigers 10.
Okay.
So again, good win, but
good win, yeah.
Nice close game. Murfield at the 18, Bradford Dudley L 6.
Oh, so Bradford Dudley couldn't go all the way to the grand final, could they? But they've gone ever so close.
Yeah.
They'll be really happy with the way that they've come together again this season, won't they? Now Division 2, Castleford Panthers 4, Mould Green 14. Great result that for Mould Green. And Seacroft Sharks, again, winning at Brighouse Rangers by 18-14. So a couple of upset results there, really, because as we know, if you get a home tie in the playoffs, it usually means that you've finished higher up the league.
That's right, yeah.
Doesn't it? So some great stuff there. And then in Division 3, Bramley Buffaloes 24, New Earswick All Blacks 0, Dodders Miners 20, Upton 14.
Good game, that second one, wasn't it? That first one, I don't know, is that a walkover? Which I'm very, very surprised if it is.
Especially when it gets round to that stage of the season.
That's exactly what I'm looking at, Parky.
Division 4, Dewsbury Moor 18, Ulton Raiders 6. And I don't know whether they played for double points there. They're on twice, according to the RFL website. Division 5, Linley St Joseph's 24, Scarborough Pirates 0. And Division 6. Charleston these are from last week, these, so no, nothing new there.
Division 6.
Nothing to see there. In the NCL Alliance, Shawcross Sharks 0, Heworth 24. Northampton Knights 0, Milford 24. And then Stanley 38, Heworth 6. So that's a good win for Stanley, that. I think we can say that one went ahead.
Yeah.
Right. Hull Division. Anything happening in the Hull Division?
Hull Division.
Hull Division. All completed.
It could have been, completed a little while ago.
So, what does that mean? Well, it means there's finals day coming up in the Yorkshire Men's League. These games happening at your second favourite venue. Featherstone, yeah. All getting underway at 11 o'clock with the Division 3 final. Bramley Buffaloes up against Dodworth Miners. These are Saturday, by the way.
Yeah.
Then Division 2 takes centre stage at 1 p.m. Mould Green are up against Seacroft Sharks. The Division 1 final is at 3 o'clock. Murfield against Siddle. And then the Premier Division Grand Final, that sees King Cross Park up against Stanley Rangers, and that kicks off at 5 o'clock. So you're going to have a right royal entertaining day there, right?
Do you know what I like about that, Parky, is there's a lot of those teams there that are standalone teams. Do you know, they're not A teams.
They're not A teams, are they? Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, no disrespect to the A teams, you know what I mean, but I like it when those types of teams certainly get to finals and have a crack at the picking up some silverware.
Well, it gives us something to talk about, and it gets us looking as well, doesn't it, for these teams and where they are. But it's been interesting following that. And if you are going to finals day and you're involved at any of those teams, and like Sam did there, sending a little note through about what's happened, I'd be delighted to hear from you about how the game's gone. So you can message me at Dave Parkinson RL over there, and that X. You can also send us an X. An X message. That's over at 13 Pro-Am RL, isn't it?
It is,
they could even get in touch with you, Steve. They could send you an email. They could do anything, couldn't they?
They can do, yeah. I mean, as I say, that if it's your team, if you're going to Featherstone, I would say, and this is just me, and I'm very biased that because I love finals there. They do a great chips and gravy. That's what I've got to say to you. Absolutely superb. But yeah, it's a nice venue. It's a nice stand that gets all the atmosphere going. And I've got to take your hats off to Featherstone because the amount of games they play on that pitch in a year, it's absolutely phenomenal. Enjoy. If you're going, please enjoy. And if you can get in touch, if you want to do a little match report, or even if you want to do an audio thing on your phone, and tell us how the game went on, send us a message. WhatsApp message if you want to do a voice one. Again, send us something through.
How are they going to do that on WhatsApp? They'll need a number.
They'll need a number. We'll work that one out.
We'll put it on Twitter.
We'll
put something on Twitter. We're getting used to this. I'm a lad from Lee. We don't do technology very well. This is why I get Steve pressing the buttons. But yes, some great rugby league action to look forward to. If you go in, enjoy it. That's the more important thing. But yes, if you're involved at any of those clubs, do get in touch with us as well and tell us how it went.
Quick question, I don't know whether you know, Parky. Have you any idea where the North West Men's finals are at?
I haven't seen anything written down anywhere yet, though.
Because I know, obviously, we're just saying that we were there. I think it was a couple of years ago when we was at Salford City Roosters.
Yeah. Well, that was the cup finals day, wasn't it?
What I was going to say, it's a ground that could
host
for that.
Yeah, it could definitely host.
It's very nice.
And I know last year they held them at Introse Bridge, didn't they?
Yeah.
The finals, because you went along to some of those because you said you'd never been as wet.
Never been as wet. Yeah, there's some good games as well.
Yeah, but you were still drying off by Wednesday when we were talking about it. So. Right, moving on to the National Conference League, and there were things that were decided.
Whatever.
There was teams that'll pick up championships. There was also a couple of humdingers of games as well, weren't there? Let's get right into it, shall we? Where shall we start, Steve? I'll leave it up to you. You point me in the direction and we will start there.
Well, obviously we start the Premier Division.
See, you had to start it right at the top. Well, what better place to start than right at the top? And it's a massive congratulations to Siddle, who have finished the regular season as champions. So they've won 18 of their 22 games, scoring 698 points, conceding just 180. And I've got to say, they've been so deserving of this. I mean, they beat Loch Lane 52 points to 10 in the last regular game of the season. Hosty, as he has proven to be so often, a massive difference, kicking 8 goals. The try scorers there were Milnes, Ramsden, Lewis, Greenwood, Walsh, Williams with 2, Harry Milnes and McCallum going over for the scores. Loch Lane, who trailed 30 points to 0 at half time, did rally in the second half, scored tries through Price and Sowerby. Fozzard kicking a goal, but ultimately there's only one winner there, isn't there? And that is Siddle. Great win there for them to pick up the league leaders.
Yeah, and you know what I like about that is that we saw them at Ryde at the beginning of the season in the Challenge Cup, didn't we?
And they look good.
Yeah, and if you're looking that good right from the off, you've done something right in pre-season, haven't you?
Very much so. And I mean, they're nearly 100 points better off with conceding less than anybody else that's got near them, really, to be honest. So the team that finished second was West Hull, who actually lost their final regular season game of the season, 14 points to 4, up at Wathbrow Hornets. So Dixon, McCourt and Kerwin the scorers for the Hornets. Walker Taylor adding 1 goal to his tally there. Hampshire scoring the only try for West Hull, which came in the second half. So Wathbrow led 14-0 at half time. A good result that for Wathbrow, and certainly, well, you know, I wonder whether they'll have thoughts of dipping into these playoffs that are coming up and going deep.
How many times have we said never write Wathbrow off, because they always...
Hang on. You've revamped to saying
no,
that.
But as we've been saying at the beginning of the season, you know, are they a bit like Hunslet to a certain extent? Are they a team that, you know, all right, let's get everybody ready and fit and well, hopefully for the playoffs, and let's give it a crack from there.
Okay, interesting one. Right, the team that finished third was Rochdale Mayfield. They've had another outstanding season, only lost 5 games over the course of the year. They defeated West Bowling by 15 points to 14. So it turned out to be a drop goal from Connolly, who had an involved game. He scored a try, kicked 3 goals, and the all-important drop goal. The other score going the way of Lawson for Mayfield. Meanwhile, for West Bowling, Wright and Lum scored their tries. Williams kicked 3 goals. Bowling actually led 12-6 at half-time. They threatened to be a big party pooper, but ultimately West Bowling couldn't quite complete the job in the second half. Mayfield are definitely a side to watch out for as well, aren't they?
They've sort of gone under the radar, I suppose, to a certain degree, haven't they? You know, there's a couple of games where you sort of, you know, you pique the interest, but then, you know, it's sort of like other teams sort of take the foot. I mean, there's no if or buts, you know, the way Siddle have been going, you know, we've been looking at them, and obviously we always concentrate on Hunslet because of what they've done previous seasons, etc. So I think Rochdale have gone a little bit under the radar there. Just see what happens.
A quick word on West Bowling, because, you know, despite that loss, they secured their Premier Division status, which, I mean, that's massive for them, isn't it?
And they've certainly rallied, haven't they, toward the end of the season, because we thought at the beginning, here we go, it's you know, is it going to be a little bit of a step too far? But no, they've done well to hang on in there and obviously steady the ship.
You mentioned Hunslet, and they've had a strong end to the season again, haven't they? So they defeated Heworth 30 points to 14 up there, thanks to tries from Dargan, McClelland, Cohen, Jack McShane and Cork, with Gale kicking 5 goals.
Yeah, the question has got to be...
What's the question?
next seaon? Will there be another McShane playing for Hunslet?
Well, he said that he's stepping down from the pro ranks, hasn't he? But I mean, that's saying full-time rugby. So whether whether he'll sign for someone in the Championship or whether he'll decide. I mean, he did coach at Hunslet for a number of years and combined, he's playing at the top level. You know what? That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? From an NCL point of view, what a story.
Would that not be classed as another merger? It would be called the McShane ARLFC.
Yeah, there are 3 of them all playing, but no, I mean that's possibly in the future. I don't know. You know what I'll try and do? Seeing as in a few weeks' time I'll be going away with 2 of them. Yeah, I'll go and I'll pop that question to them and sort of see whether they give us anything.
We'll try and get a pack. I'll try and get the scoop.
I'll try and get the scoop.
But you've got to be careful here because you've got Hunslet who are a bit of a wounded animal at the moment because they're not used to being in this sort of position. So they're another one. Not still an Hunslet. I think you've just got to keep an eye on for these playoffs.
I mean, the loss means that Heworth end up going down. Yeah. They've been very competitive for much of the season, though, haven't they? And they can hold their heads high. They can hold their heads high, which is easy for me to say. Sturdy with 2 tries, Dent with another one of their scores, sadly kicking their goal. And then if we look beneath them, we've already mentioned about Wathbrow Hornets, who are 5th. The team that eventually made the playoffs was York Acorn, who accounted for Egremont by 17 points to 0. I'm really, really pleased because they just got pipped to it last season, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Acorn didn't make the final 6, and they're going to be in there, and they're coming in it in a vein of form as well, aren't they, at the moment? So Lord scoring 3 tries, Potter scoring 3 tries, Teng scoring 2. These are all names that we have been mentioning over the course of the season, aren't they? Wellburn, Gallagher, Speck, Rushworth and Woods, the other scorers there. Ant Chilton just with the 9 goals this time round.
9 goals,
but 70 points to 0 against Egremont Rangers, who unfortunately finished bottom of the Premier Division. We know the story that they have had. They've had a succession of season-ending injuries. They have completed every single fixture, which is, a real big credit to them. And I can only hope that they can look forward to next season when they get plenty of these players back on board.
Yeah, I know they've tweeted out this week as well, sort of saying, thanking all the players for all their efforts this year and about how many have actually turned out to have and played who really shouldn't have played. They put their hand up and gone forward, and so you've got to say massive credit to them. And also there's a big thank you to the backroom staff. So all the people who've sort of coached, etc. And I know is it Rhys Davis is stepping down this season, but he's been up there, and I'm sure if they hadn't had the injuries that they had, they'd have been in amongst sort of, I'm sure mid-table-ish at the very least, because they had a cracking start to the season. Let's not forget that. And it's a great club. You've got to look at, they completed all the fixtures, and we know that they've managed to do that. And you've got to take your hat off to them and say, wish them all the best next year in Division 1. And wouldn't surprise me if they bounce back and they'll be back up again next year.
Now, Thatto, they had the spectre of relegation hanging over them before the game. And I'm not talking about me turning up to on their games either, because I didn't go. And I'm sure they were happy not to see me this weekend as well, as they accounted for Kells by 62 points to 0. Good win in the end. Yeah. So Horton, the star there, with 3 tries and 9 goals. 3 tries as well for Dickinson. Other scores go in the way of Dwyer, Ashurst, Lee and Guildford and Holroyd. I mean, they'll probably look at this season thinking, we flirted too much with danger there, didn't we? And they'll be hoping for better next term. But ultimately, they've secured Premier Division status, which is what everybody would have wanted at the start of the season, wouldn't they?
And the thing is, like again, we were talking about those names within that division that are always in that six and fighting for that top title. I mean, the Thatchworth Crusaders are usually one of those, and they've obviously flirted with danger this season.
Do you think they'll be better for it?
Yeah, I think it might be a bit of a wake-up call to a certain extent. Sit down, look at how things have gone at the end of the season, and I'm sure they don't want to be in that again. They want to be up there. I mean, obviously, from you look at as a club as a whole, they will be. I'm sure they'll say, but we won the Barlow Cup, which is, don't get me wrong, that's a prestigious trophy, but the bottom line is, at the end of the day, you want to be up there fighting for that NCL Premier title, because that's the number one division at the moment, isn't it, in the Community Rugby League calendar.
Right, Division 1. And first of all, let's start with Clotface Miners. So they had a game against Wigan St Pat's. This one got abandoned after 35 minutes due to a bad leg injury. So our thoughts go to the player Glover, who got injured for Wigan St Pat's. I seriously hope that he's going to be okay. And I know that both of those clubs are going to have to look at that game being played. It needs to be played.
I think they're looking at the 18th, Wednesday the 18th. I think the only issue at the moment is because of the time of year.
Floodlights.
Yeah, and I know Clotflares are looking to someone with floodlights to host the game for them. So whom that will be, I'm not sure. But obviously, once we know, we'll let you know.
Well, to be fair, that could be a show on the road. That
it could well be. We could
do a commentary.
Yeah,
and the show. We'll do a bit of both.
Well, you've got certainly Thato that are not a million miles away from them. Then obviously there's Pilks
as
which
well.
is local as well. So yep, that would. We'll keep an eye on that one. That's what's happening with that one. Clockface against Wigan and St Pat's. Obviously for Clock, a win there could potentially save their bacon. I know it would take a massive swing, huge,
but also as well, a win for Wigan and St Pat's could put them in the playoffs.
It could, yeah.
So this is why the game needs to be played from an integrity point of view, as far as the league's concerned as well. Plus, we don't want to see clubs get relegated for not completing fixtures or anything like that. No. So it definitely needs to be played, and it will be. It will be. Great result this for Crossfields, by the way. Crossfields 34, Dewsbury Moor Maroons 22. Hat-trick there for Bradish, Cowie Love, Stanway, Holiday and Boyne going over the line as well. Stanway kicking those 3 goals. For the Maroons, there was a couple of tries there for Sam, Woodcock and Berwick going over the line. Colbridge kicking 3 goals. The Dewsbury Moor Maroons actually led 16-14 at half time in this one. So that to me says what a powerful second half performance that is from Crossfields. And they've been going quietly about their business. They've manoeuvred themselves up to 4th spot.
Yeah. Like we were discussing beforehand, we've watched them a few times this season, and they've had that sort of air of we go in front, and then whether we put the crew on the rack or we just sort of think, we can win this, I don't know. But that's how it seems to have been. Hopefully they'll get that out of the game ready for the playoffs. But yeah, there's certainly a team that on the day they can do it. Dewsbury Moor Maroons, I'm just looking at where they are position-wise. They got deducted how many points, was it, Parker?
It was 4 points they got deducted. Them and Introse Bridge got deducted 4 points.
They could be right up, them and Introse Bridge could be right up there up amongst it, a lot higher than they are. Dewsbury Moor, as we know, have probably had second half of the season has been a really bumpy ride, hasn't it?
It has, because they were outstanding, weren't they? Over the first sort of 10, 12 games of the season, they were really, really good, really good. One thing we can confirm now is Leek Miners Rangers have got that second automatic promotion spot after defeating Hull Dockers by 68 points to 4. The Dockers put one of the youngest sides that they've ever put out on the field out against Leek Miners Rangers, and it sounds like Pilkington had a right day out. He scored 4 tries and kicked 6 goals, so that's a great personal tally, isn't it? 28 points from him, and did very well. Other tries there from Gotts, Grimes, who grabbed 3. Lancelot, your favourite NCL player, scoring a couple of tries there. Hoyles scoring a try. Williamson grabbing 3.
I wonder if that was from number 7 or whether it was from he was out at centres again.
If I get the chance, I'll have a look at the team sheet as it got sent through. But well, I would say for Hull Dockers, they scored their only try in the second half through Dear Love. Ince Rose Bridge are having a fantastic second half of the season, and they went over to Alton Raiders, and this is a brilliant result. 28 points to 8 they won over there. So the Raiders scoring tries through Stevens and Waters, Bridge getting over the line through Boyd, Fillingham, Rogers and Morrison. Kieran Eccleston, though, he was the calming influence, kicking 6 goals in that win. Rosebridge led by 18-4 at half-time. Waterhead Warriors, well, they just enjoyed themselves. I think they enjoy themselves most games, don't they, at the moment? They went over to Skirler, who are relegated from the division, defeating them by 46 points to 6. Skirler scoring try through Pratt and a goal through Puckering, but there were no match for Andy Joy, who scored 2 tries, Hamilton, who grabbed 2 tries, Lynch, who grabbed 2 tries, with the other scores courtesy of Barker and Perks. Brennan just chipping in with 7 goals this time round. And then elsewhere, Woolston Rovers, who have really consolidated their place this season, haven't they, in the league? They defeated Stanley by 18 points to 6. Tarpey, Jones and Files, their try scorers, Lawton kicking 3 goals. And for Stanley, Butterill with the try, Taylor with the goal. Division 2 is where it gets really interesting, though. So, just before I move on from Division 1, Lee Miners Rangers winning that second promotion spot. Skirler relegated. So that's the confirmed from that. They can't go any higher, really. Division 2. Okay. So maybe it'd be a case of explaining the permutations that could potentially have happened at the weekend. So you had Thornhill Trojans sitting in 6th, but knowing that if Pilks won by a big score, they could overtake them. You had Pilks knowing that if they lost, they would have got relegated.
That's right, yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And Millom, they would have, if they'd won, they would have got the playoff spot. This is how close this division was. Barrow Island was sitting in a relegation spot, knowing that all they had to do was win, and then they had to look elsewhere and see where point difference would take them. Ellenborough Rangers were hoping too that they could get a win as well, which would just confirm their status. And then up at the top of the division, you've got Shawcross Sharks playing against Wigan St Jude's. There has been nothing to choose between these two sides all the way through the season, and the winner was going to lift the championship and get promoted as champions out of the division. Those two sides were playing off against each other. You got Barrow Island up against Thornhill Trojans. You've got Pilkington Rex up against Millom. And, of course, you got a couple of other games in there which also meant a lot for various positions and the like. Let's take you through them, shall we? So let's start with Barrow Island, who have performed the Great Escape. I'm sure that, you know, if there was a bike and a barbed wire fence, they would have been taking it in turns to jump over it on it, because they accounted for Thornhill Trojans by 34 points to 12. This was 12-all at half-time, by the way, so it must have been a nervous half-time team talk, to say the least. Wright scoring 2 tries for Barrow Island. Baines, Ford, Irvine and Woodward the other scorers. Jones kicking 5 goals. And for the Trojans, Gibson kicking 2 goals to the try scored by Edwards and Richter. But Barrow Island securing their status with that 34 points to 12 victory. Then there was a cracking game and a cracking result and a big performance from Ocassini for Ellenborough Rangers as they defeated Normanton Knights by 28 points to 22. Ocassini scoring 2 tries there. The other scores for the hosts going the way of Penman, Fearon and Mumberson, who also kicked 4 goals. For the Knights, Carter and Banwell scored tries. Jacob Crossland chipped in with a try. Adam Biscombe also scoring, with Jake Crossland kicking a goal and Joe Crossland kicking 2. And what a turnaround that was as well, because Normanton Knights actually led by 10 points to 0 at half time there. So more of that sort of team talk as well from Ellenborough Rangers, and who knows what they'll accomplish next season. Dewsbury Celtic went over to already relegated Myton Warriors and came away with a 40 points to 0 result, which means that they finished the regular season in 3rd. A very similar sort of result. Well, just to again run you through those scorers: Bottomley, Yarrow, Russell, Mitchell and Paul Fulston scoring 2 with their scores. Teal going over for a try, Fulston adding 6 goals as well. Oldham St Anne's getting a very, very similar result as well, winning 40 points to 4 against already relegated Saddleworth Rangers. This was big local derby.
Yeah.
And the Saints, they had 2 tries from Fletcher, 2 tries from Flanagan, 1 each from Chatterton and Davis, with goal split between Pogson, who added 7, Flanagan, who added the 1. Rangers scoring the 1 try through Ogden. It was really close at half time, only 14 points to 4, so that is a second half of some magnitude as well for Oldham St Anne's. That sold up 4th spot for them. Then we moved over to Pilkington Rex. And Pilkington Rex have done it. They won by 26 points to 18. They actually trailed 18-8 at half time.
They did.
So
but
there were
I was keeping my eye on
nervous
that
there.
market, and I thought, are they going to get pumped? Because again, second part of the season, in fact, not even second half. You're talking like the 4th quarter of the season. They've started to put it together and get some good results. They've not caned anybody, but like we said before, they've been getting the results, and you look at some of the scorers that are on there, the usual suspects again with a couple of them.
Conversely, I'm gutted for Millham.
Yeah.
Because they've been good value, and on another season, I mean that's nearly playoff.
Yeah, and
that's nearly playoffs, isn't it?
You reverse that fixture, put that game in Millham, and that it's a different complexity.
Very much so
in that game. You know what I mean?
Very much so.
It is difficult in that sort of sense as well.
Let's take you through the scorers. As Steve said, some usual suspects here. So Derek grabbing a try, Hannon scoring 2, Connick scoring 2, with Kieran Napper kicking 3 goals there. And for the Woolly-Backs, who scored all of these 18 points in the first half, Lupton, Hodgson and Thompson, their scorers, Postlethwaite adding 3 goals. And then came the big one, the decider. Shawcross Sharks against Wigan St Jude's. Now, we went to the game that was played over at Parsons Meadow, didn't we, earlier on in the season?
Blistering hot day, wasn't it?
What a magnificent occasion that was as well. And what a result that was on that day for Wigan St Jude's, who won it in the last couple of minutes.
That's right, yeah.
Through our good friend Danny Cassidy.
Yeah.
He was the hero yet again, nudged over a penalty, which proved the difference as they won by 24 points to 22. So the Sharks, they had tries through Ashen, Tomlinson, who scored 2, and Baines, with Tomlinson adding 3 goals. He did everything he could to ensure a result. But St Jude's, who led by 16 points to 10 at half time, got the job done. They had tries themselves through Connor Parkinson, through Cassidy, and through Dante Morley Samuels. Barry Rothwell also chipping in with a try which sends him safely into retirement as a massive hero. Cassidy adding those 4 goals in the end. It's been nip and tuck between those two sides all the way through the season.
It's been great.
They have been such top quality, haven't they?
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to both of those teams stepping up into Division 1 next season, because I think they'll really add to that. They'll add to the mix there. And especially seeing as Lee Miners Rangers are going up, we've still got a local team that's going to be playing in the division as well. And a certain Shawcross Sharks as well, so the Dewsbury team's on the rise.
Yeah, it's going to be some good derby matches there, aren't there, as well?
So, we can confirm St Jude's have gone up as champions. Shawcross Sharks have finished second. Millham, Saddleworth and Myton have been relegated from Division 2, which takes us to Division 3. And there was things to be decided here as well, by the way. So Bentley hosted East Leeds. East Leeds knew that a win for them would win the championship. Could they do it? Yes, they could. They led by 30 points to 0 at half time. Conroy scoring 4 of their tries, Duckworth scoring 2, Minns scoring a try, with 6 goals from the boot of Littlewood. That was too much for Bentley to contain. They had a try from Joe Jarmolinski, and Sykes kicked the goal as well. But ultimately, East Leeds were leading 30-0 at half time, and they return to Division 2 next season as champions of Division 3. I'm delighted for them.
Yeah. And we've seen their standard of play, and again, they will grace Division 2, really, really well with the way they play the game.
Well, we said this last time, didn't we? And then I don't know what happened. I'm hoping that they're a little bit more stable this time round, and certainly everything points to a stable club this time, doesn't it?
Totally agree.
And I think we saw from the last 2 or 3 games of last season, they were starting to formulate this team, and it was coming together, and they were picking results up, weren't they? Even when they got relegated at the back end of last season. If you went over the last sort of 3 or 4 games from last season, added them to this year, and you're thinking, whoa, that's a good team. Yeah. That's a really good team. I think that team, as it stands at the moment, would push for playoff rugby next season in Division 2.
Yeah. If they can keep that together and obviously stay injury free, I totally agree with you there, mate.
So the other big games that were happening involved Beverley taking on Dissington. Dissington hoping for a win and hoping that Featherstone Lions could come up with a result against Hensingham. Dissington did their bit. They won by 18 points to 10. Worthington with 2 tries, Friel going over for a try, 3 goals from the boot of George. Dissington led 10-0 at half time up at Beverley. I mean, that's a notable result for them up at Beverley as well, to be fair. Harold and Hardy scored their tries, with Poskett kicking a goal. Ultimately, a great result that for Dissington, which meant that all eyes were on Hensingham and how they could go, and looking to see whether Featherstone Lions could come up with a big shock. Was it to be? No, it wasn't. Again, I'm delighted for Hensingham, because they've certainly built and built and built. They've got so many young players. I think they are the team. They're the story. I can see them over the next 2 or 3 years, especially if they get the home results right next year.
Parker, though,
they'll be fantastic. They'll be a great watch in Division 2, won't they?
We're talking about unlucky, though, because you're talking, they got what? They drawn a match, haven't they? And just 1 point they've missed out on the
on the championship.
Oh yeah. But really have played really well. And when we watched them up there when they were playing Bentley, great to watch. And I agree with you.
There was a certain fullback in bright boots that impressed us both on that day, wasn't there? Wetherill,
Mr. Wetherill, yeah.
2 tries and 8 goals for Hensingham in this game. He's been doing that all through the season, hasn't he? When he's played. Butterworth added 3 goals. Conway, Charlton and Dalton, the other scorers. For the Lions, they've had a much better second half of the season as well. They've won. They've won a couple of games actually, haven't they, in recent weeks? And they had tries through Beresford and Cork. Deal kicking a goal, and they'll be hoping for much better things next season. Now, you will notice that I haven't mentioned a result there for Milford against Seaton Rangers. And that's because Seaton Rangers informed the league last week that they wouldn't be able to complete their fixture list. So some people will be wondering what happens in those circumstances, and they'll obviously look at previous years and everything that's happened. I think officially the statement hasn't quite come out yet, but I know that it has been heard. So it has been dealt with, and I'm sure that people will find out a little bit more in due course as to exactly what happens there. It's disappointing. It is disappointing when sides aren't able to complete their league fixtures. And I know from a Seaton point of view, they were particularly disappointed that it's come to this, where they have pulled out of these last 2 games. And I'm going to say something which is very similar to a situation that we've already commented on through the season, how Egremont Rangers have completed
that's who I was going to come to.
all of their games.
Yeah.
And the story is pretty similar. So Seaton have also run into a big number of season-ending injuries. They've got 23 players that haven't been able to complete the season. And yet they've run out of players. So they've given word back on the last 2 games. Both of those games, by the way, have been awarded 34 points to 9 to their opposition. So there's no 24-0ers.
Yeah.
It's been worked out based on an average of how many points the side was scoring and how many they were conceding.
Yeah. It's, as I said, the agreement analogy is excellent. It just and it's. I look at it this way, and I've mentioned it before. Obviously, I understand. Obviously, all the NCL teams, one of the criteria is you've got to have a inverted commas reserve side. So why they couldn't finish those last couple of fixtures? That surprises me. But at the end of the day, it's an amateur sport, and the bottom line is people have got his health is at stake. But it's a little disappointing there, I must admit.
Now, NCL administrator Alan Smith, he spoke to Phil Hodgson for the League Express. And he's quoted here as saying, Seaton are not able to finish the season due to the number of players not available now. Their 2 remaining games will be awarded to the opposition 34-9, which is the average points conceded and scored in each of their games. Rangers secretary Pete Gilmore told the League Express, "We're gutted as a club that we've been unable to fulfil our last league fixture with Milford and our rearranged fixture away at Featherstone Lions." So that's where Featherstone's second results come from, by the way, just in case you was wondering. Regrettably, we've experienced an unprecedented number of injuries, ones that have ruled players out of the sport for long-term absences, and in the end, we've run out of healthy bodies. As a club, we'll now take time to regroup and hope to bounce back next season with fresh faces. We'd like to apologise to the NCL, to Milford and to Featherstone Lions for our inability to meet our fixture obligations. So there are decisions to be made, and I do know that Seaton Rangers came into an NCL meeting earlier this week, and I'm sure that the results of that will be made public. Interestingly enough, because both them and Featherstone Lions have finished bottom of the National Conference.
Yeah, so what happens there now, Parker?
So the bottom 2 sides, they go up for re-election. So when it comes round to the NCL AGM, they will decide at that point, the clubs will decide and they'll vote whether both of those teams retain their status as NCL clubs.
Right, so I suppose it's difficult because further up the line, if you don't fulfil fixtures, it's an automatic relegation, if I'm not wrong, isn't it?
The rules were sort of like looked at the end of last season, because it ended up being a right mess last year, didn't it? With things happening, and although Wigan St Pat's were able to complete the fixtures that they had flunked in the first place, and East Leeds were able to complete their fixture list, they didn't complete them when it was meant to happen. So they got the fines for the games that they missed, in effect, even though they then played them, but also got relegated. So because Wigan St Pat's just went down 1 division, but the rules were tightened up after that by saying if you're in a relegation spot, you'll go out and you'll go further down.
Right. So you suffer your relegation from being in a relegation position, and you get a relegation for not fulfilling fixtures.
Now it's a little bit different if you're in the bottom division, because where do you get relegated to? So in this case, the decision has to be made as to whether do you relegate those clubs and kick them out of the league altogether. But that's why it comes back to the clubs to then vote them in. But they're not adding those things. They're not actually. So there's, in a way, there's it's like you can get relegated further up the chain again.
Yeah.
But you've nowhere else to go into. And ultimately.
So, this is a slightly different question. I can understand, obviously, the down there and got to seek re-election because Dem and Featherstone Rovers are bottom and next to bottom. Mm-hmm. If Seaton Rangers were say mid-table, would they have had to seek re-election?
I don't know, but it's an interesting question. Yeah.
Because they wouldn't have been in the relegation position to sort of say, right, you definitely have got to seek re-election.
Yeah, you're right. And actually, that's an interesting.
Yep.
That's an interesting one. Again, there'll probably be people like listening to this now saying Dave doesn't know his rules. He's meant to be involved.
They're saying that Steve's a canny lad.
He's meant to be involved in the NCL, or in fact, there might be people listening to this who say we need to get this Steve on the NCL committee.
No, but it's obviously it's something that could happen, couldn't it? I mean, there's no ifs and buts about it. Obviously, you would hope that wouldn't happen, but it is a scenario where there could have been, sort of been playing relatively well, sort of majority of the season, and then I could have had all these. I don't just mean Seaton here. I mean any club.
Now, interestingly, there was something that happened in this bottom division last year, because if you remember, Beverley made the playoffs last year and didn't play in them.
Well, that's right, yeah.
So they finished further up the table. Yeah. So they got deducted 4 points for this season. That was what was decided as the punishment for them to face. So again, I think what actually happens in those is those clubs are then invited by the NCL committee to present their case. And the committee obviously hears what they've got to say. Is there any mitigating circumstances? Is there anything that they've got to sort of like really prove that they still want to play NCL rugby? That's a big point. Because it's easy enough to then turn around and say, well, actually, are you good enough? And then there's some genuine conversations like that go on. Are you good enough? Do you see yourself as a National Conference League club? What's going to be different next year to what's happened this year? Is there something that you've learned, other things in place to mitigate this potentially happening again?
So I presume then, like you're saying, Seaton Rangers and Featherstone Lions now have got a basically seek re-election to are there other teams that want to come in and sort of be a part of Division 3 now?
There were a couple of teams that actually put into sort of move up, if you like, into the National Conference League. There was a visit done to a club last week. And the recommendation from the committee is to put that club forward to see if the clubs will then accept them being moved into the National Conference League for next season, which would add another team into Division 3. It would give you 11 clubs.
More balanced, wouldn't it?
And it would also mean as well, whereas the last couple of years there's been teams dropping out and the division's gone to a small...
It's a shame that. Because what you want really is all the 4 divisions to be of the same... Then everything's the same then, isn't it? Everything's going to finish around the same time. The only thing that's going to change then, if you have any, sort of fixtures that can't be, sort of, for instance, the first Wiggins and Pat.
That's unavoidable. Unavoidable
exactly.
Because of what's happened there. Who votes now on that team? Is it just Division 3 or is it the whole of the teams that are within the NCL? All of the NCL gets a shout because it's bringing a club in. So they've also got to hear kind of what's been recommended. And then they have the decision. So
to be fair, it's. Well, I'm not saying it's a difficult one. It's one of those where when you see it, like I said, Division 3, with it being a couple of teams short, I'm sure the majority are going to say, well, I think the same as us. Yeah, we want somebody into I suppose the other side of it is you want a club that's coming in that's going to be sustainable and being able to stay there, isn't it?
You do, and that's the big question, isn't it? Because obviously there's been a number of things that have affected rugby league at this level, but in some respects, whilst we also said that they need the games are more for the players and more for the regular rugby that players crave.
Yep.
A lot of the clubs could still have clubs if they didn't play as many games.
Yeah, true.
So this is why you've got smaller divisions elsewhere, isn't it? Other clubs have, businesses and business plans, which means that they don't just rely on the people that are visiting them, which, is another reason why I love Community Rugby League, and how, for me, Community Rugby League could teach some professional and semi-professional clubs a heck of a lot more about becoming that little bit more of a sustainable model. I mean, don't get me wrong, I obviously know that the higher up the food chain you go, the more you're going to be paying out in wages and things like that, so you do need to create money.
But it's still sustainable, isn't it? What I'm saying,
but you still got to make
sustainable.
it sustainable and try and get it so as the books balance.
That's
and
right,
you're not going to be lurching from some crisis to another every few years, or you're not going to be announcing big losses, when it gets round to announcing your finances and stuff like that. Because I can confidently say that there's, some of these National Conference League teams, they've got far more in the bank than a lot of pro clubs and semi-pro clubs, because of the business models that they have, and I suppose their location, which means that they have so much business that comes into them, and they have diversified their business, so they've used their clubs to host other events and things.
And if you've got the right structure in place and the right people in place who are helping to run that club, and I don't just mean from an actual playing point of view. I mean, run the club as a business. If you've got somebody who's savvy at doing that, then that's and maybe these teams have a couple of people who are good business people in their own right, because we know ourselves, how many business people are involved in a
there's some great
put
people
the money
involved.
in, and also support it in a what I say, a physical way. They go watching the game. They don't, don't get me wrong. I like the sponsorship that all our clubs get in all divisions, and it's very much appreciated. But I wonder how many of those sponsors actually go and watch the matches regular. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, but we do know there are quite a few who do go and do that, and the reason they put the money in the first place is because they enjoy that part. I mean, even a lot of it these days now, I go on about time and time again about saying
not saying schools. You're not going to use your schools and are you? In fact, you've not used it many times this year.
No, I haven't. But from that point of view, that for me has brought a lot of eyes on clubs, and therefore a lot of money you can bet has come in that way, where people have saw that, well, look, this is good for in the long haul, for help my kid to do something that he enjoys doing, and if I can support that, obviously financially to help that keep on going, then I'm gonna. And we know there are people like that, but even down to all the things that are organised then by clubs, even simple things organising wise. Things like race nights and sort of presentation nights, which are coming up now at the end of the season. I see various ones are coming up, and they're doing them in slightly different ways, because they're not always the easiest thing, to sort of say, let's do a formal and way of doing stuff, but utilising it, because I'm not sure. I think it's Dewsbury Mill Maroons. I'm sure they're doing their presentation night at the same time as the grand final.
Are they?
Yeah, and during the half time of the grand final.
I like it.
They're gonna. That's when the food's going to be served. So you're not going to miss anything. And then there's obviously the presentation going on, and then there's something else carrying on later. So they've utilised all that to drag the people in. And from what I can gather, it's free to go. So yeah, and I mean, it's those types of things, thinking out of the box, and we know how savvy they have been when we're speaking to them. How very switched down they are as a club, and a lot of others could take, sort of inspiration from those types of things on the way to move forwards, and not always do. You don't have to do the things traditional to accomplish the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Just think outside of the box and do something slightly different way. If it brings bums on seats, pounds, shillings and pence or plastic cards over the bar or food wise, just to bring that income into all things money wise.
Right, fixtures.
Yeah.
So we have reached the playoff stage, and let's run you through all the divisions and how our riders and runners are for this weekend. So in the Premier Division Championship playoffs, it's the elimination semi-finals. So this will see Rochdale Mayfield host York Acorn. That's a game that I think I'm going to go to with my camera in tow.
Yeah.
I think so. Machine Gun Parkinson will be there again, going getting all the pictures ready for using, for next season and doing more there. In the other elimination semi-final, Hunslet host Wathbrow Hornets. So that is going to be another humdinger, isn't it? Yeah. In fact, both of these games are, aren't they?
Well, those are the two I was saying, sort of. Well, I say Rochdale Mayfield under the radar, Wathbrow Hornets as well. That's going to be interesting, that Wathbrow Hornets Hunslet one.
Now, Division 1, they still have league games to play. So, Clockface Miners are set to host Ulton Raiders. Hull Dockers at home to Dewsbury at Moor Maroons. Woolston Rovers make the short trip over to Ince Rose Bridge. Leet Miners Rangers host already relegated Skirler. Waterhead Warriors get their promotion party underway against Stanningley, and Wigan St Pat's, they're at home to Crossfields. That's another outstanding fixture, that, isn't it? Division 2 promotion playoff semi-finals, both of these to decide who's going to play off in that final. It's going to be Dewsbury Celtic at home to Thornhill Trojans. Small matter of a Dewsbury derby there. Oldham St Anne's at home to Normanton Knights. As I say, winners go through to play off in the promotion final, which will take place next weekend. Division 3 promotion playoff semi-finals, Dissington are at home to Lee East. Driglington, they're at home to Beverley. Again, you can't really pick a winner from those, can you?
No, not at all. So the finals, Parky, will they be provided?
So the Division 2 the Division 2 and Division 3 finals will be played at the highest ranking club that wins its way through.
All right. Yeah.
So if everything goes as you would expect, you're kind of looking at, Dissington hosting Driglington. You're looking at Dewsbury Celtic hosting Oldham St Anne's. But obviously, if those other clubs get through, it would be, if Thornhill got through against Dewsbury Celtic, then they'd have to go to the winners of the other one. Yeah.
So there's no what's the word I'm looking for? Neutral venue.
There's no neutral venue for Divisions 2 and 3. Now there is going to be both the Premier Division Grand Final and the Division 1 Grand Final being played on the same day over at Featherstone. So at the moment, this is all penciled in for the 5th of October.
Right.
So there will be, that's being played on a neutral venue, but elsewhere in the National Conference League, it's whoever wins through who's the highest league placed team, really.
And that's right, I think. I mean, because you've earned that advantage. I think that's correct. That's correct.
So, things decided, but still plenty to be decided.
Oh, is there ever?
We have reached the business end, haven't we?
Yeah, everything and nothing decided, as they say.
Steve, thank you so much.
Pleasure, mate, you know that.
Have I missed anything out?
I don't think so.
People at home, have I missed anything out?
No, they've not said
anything.
They've not said
anything. No. Well, in that case then, we'll draw this episode to a close and join us again next week here on the 13 Prom Community Rugby League Show.
Every tackle, every try, every scrum. Green Cooling is proud to be part of the Community Rugby League family.